So hey GBA fans, Xilicks here, and welcome to week 2 of the GBA Fantasy. If you missed out on last week and you do want to participate, make sure to go check out the last week video and then come back here so you can participate for this week. For those of you that did participate last week and want to see the scores, let's get into that right now. Taking a look at our last week breakdown, our top player was Mr. Azri, scoring 45 points. Very impressive score for week 1. A lot of people did score pretty high because there were quite a few mons that tend to be favorites that did end up scoring quite a bit of points, which, you know, always a good thing seeing people doing well, and it shows that, you know, over time people are learning which mons are better to pick each week, and it's definitely cool to see. Next up, we have our all-star being Offensive Magirna, scoring 26 points. Very high scoring week for this mon. It did get the 5 mon sweep with those Soul Heart boosts, with that Calm Mind baton pass from the Absol, and obviously setting up the shift gear against the Melodic, allowing it to just sweep through the entire team it was put up against. Very impressive score. And we'll see if Magirna does well this season, because last season it didn't do too well as far as fantasy is concerned, and I know a lot of people were picking it last season, and this season is no exception. Quite a few people were picking Magirna, and we will see if Magirna is able to show why people are picking it by scoring those high points. Moving on to the Coach of the Week, we had Daniki in the Rosa Radenborg getting that 5-0 win with the Magirna on their side. Usually the All-Star is often tied with the Coach of the Week. Not always, but this week did follow that trend. Moving on over to the fan document made by Dallas Star U. Make sure to go check it out to stay updated with all things GBA. One thing worth noting is all of the fantasy scores are being kept on this fan document, so if you want to see the scores for the mons, you go to the week page. So since we're looking at week 1, you would go to week 1, and if you want to see the scores for the players, then you would go to the page titled Fantasy Week 1 or whatever week it happens to be, and then you'll be able to see your scores each week after you make them, once obviously all of the battles are over. So it would be updated Monday or Tuesday after the battles, and then you'll be able to see your scores there. So let's take a look at how the coaches did this week. So based on which coach you picked for Coach of the Week, this is the score that you would be getting over here by the total. As you can see, the number 1 coach gets the added 3 points. So anyone who picked the Rosa Radenborg would be getting 8 points. Moving on to my pick 6. There was not one last week, but there will be one this week. So this can just be ignored for the time being. Looking at our All-Star, as we did speak, it was Magirna. It gained the offensive and utility points of 21 with the added bonus of 5, scoring 26 points. Our top 3 fantasy players of the week, we had Mr. Azri, as we spoke about, getting 45 points. Not far behind, we had Phil Nilsson getting 42 points, and then Mr. Video gaining 36 points. Taking a look at our top 3 offensive mons, we had Magirna, Scolipede, and Tapu Koko, all getting a decent amount of points. And then looking at our defensive mons, we had Sylveon, Mew, and Clefable. Sylveon actually did make a pretty good competition for the All-Star. Obviously, the Magirna only had 21 before adding the All-Star bonus, so not too far of a point difference. You know, a couple extra hits on the Sylveon could have made the difference there, but no, Magirna did stay ahead with that big sweep. You can scroll on through to see what the rest of the mons got that week, and obviously you can take a look at the stats over to the left if you'd like to see the breakdown for everything and whatnot. Alright, so moving over to the You Pick 6 section. These are the 6 mons that I think are going to do well this week. You guys can copy my picks, you can ignore them, whatever you want. These are just the mons that I think are going to do well. You can use it as maybe a bit of advice when you're picking for this week. So yeah, let's take a look at my offensive picks. First up, I have Scolipede from the Toronto Staraptors, coached by TTM Jolt, and is facing off against Dan in the Rosa Radenborg. This week, I predict that Scolipede will do well in the matchup, as it has quite a few ways to deal with the offensive mons on Dan's team, as well as its ability to speed boost and deal with the potential threats, alongside the fact that Scolipede also is carrying Z crystals, allowing it to get some KOs that normally may not be able to get. We also saw that Jolt was using quite a bit of setup last week, and it is very likely to see a Swords Dance set brought on Scolipede, allowing it to run through the Rosa Radenborg. Infernape is going to be my next offensive picks from the Montreal Habsols, coached by Aster J, versus the Newcastle Umbreon, coached by Aberforth. Infernape is almost always going to be a good pick for offense, and this week is no exception, seeing that very few mons are going to be switching into this monster from Aberforth's team. Anything that reliably would be able to switch in is also going to be threatened by the Thunderous. I think that the right set on Infernape this week will definitely be scoring some points in the offensive category. For my final offensive pick this week, I have Landers T from the Memphis Grizzlies, coached by Magic Activator, going off against the Norwich Skitty and the Dawn Fanatic. I like Landers offensively this week because the Skitty's team has quite a lot of mons that are weak to common moves that Landers runs, like Earthquake, Stone Edge, Superpower, Knockoff, whatever. And I think that a Scarf set may be coming this week because of the versatility in its moveset, as well as being able to knock off items, scoring quite a few utility points potentially. Moving on over to the defensive side, first up I have Mega Scizor from the Texas Rangers, coached by Randy, and they are going up against the Durham Druddigons, coached by Leo, aka 6-foot Hacks. Looking at the matchup, I like Mega Scizor as a defensive pick due to its typing providing quite a lot of ways for it to take hits alongside its natural bulk, being able to go for Roost, Defog for potential utility points, and Knockoff as well for potential utility points. Randy also has a strong switch in for fire type attacks, which would normally hinder the Scizor being Jellicent, and because of that, I think Scizor will be able to get, quite a lot of resisted hits and maybe some utility points in there as well. My next defensive pick is going to be another Steel type, being Registeel from the Norwich Skitty, coached by the Dawn Fanatic, going up against the Memphis Grizzlies and Magic Activator. The reason I picked Registeel is though there are quite a few mons on the Drizzly that can deal with Registeel, like the Landorus, there are also quite a few mons that get walled by it, like Kartana for example. My hope is that Registeel will effectively wall the mons that it needs to, while also getting a few utility points in there with potential statuses or hazard setup. I'm fairly sure that it will be broad given the matchup this week, and I hope that it'll score some decent points. For my third and final defensive pick this week, I'm going with yet another Steel type with Celesteela from the LA Clefable, coached by Gregulator, going up against Papa C and the New York Clinks. Looking at Papa C's team, Celesteela looks like it's going to be pretty good on paper defensively, as it will be able to resist stabs from Haxorus, Pidgeot, Tauros, and more, as well as being able to set up Leech Seed for recovery. And if needed, Celesteela can stand up to a lot of the offense that we see on the Clinks team. So that's going to be it for my You Pick 6 and for the video today. Remember, you can make your own picks by clicking on the form link in the description and filling it out with the picks of your own, or of course you can copy some of my picks or use them as a guideline if you see fit. Let me know what picks you made down in the comments below or in the GBA Fan Discord, and I will see you guys next time. Kiddings, bye.